And here to talk more about this is Pepe Escobar, correspondent with the Asia Times. Hi, Pepe. How you doing? It's nice to see you.
How you doing? Excuse my beard. I mean, Osama time.
Oh, Osama time. I know it's on your mind. But let's talk about Libya. How would NATO? We hear talk about putting boots on the ground. How would that work? Would there be support for any kind of new UN resolution? Brazil, where you're sitting now, abstained from that first resolution, of course, not to mention China and Russia, who have veto power, and they've been more outspokenly critical of the Libyan intervention.
Right. I already told RT, 3 or 4 weeks ago that
you said this was coming.
Yes, exactly. This will be the next move. Let's go back to the UN, get another resolution to get boots on the ground. And that's exactly the point. The BRIC countries will coordinate once again, and they will simply veto, especially China. I've been getting echoes from Beijing these past few days from diplomatic sources. They say China would not even consider this resolution. In fact, they felt that they were tricked, like your report said, by the first one, and the second one is absolutely out of bounds. And Sergei Lavrov had already said that on the record.
Right. So what do you think would need to happen? Do you think that boots will end up on the ground anyway?
No. You know what's going to happen? They are planning for a Hail Mary pass, target assassination style. And in fact, they are already attributing to the Libyan Transitional Council the calls for, let's go get Gaddafi the way you got Osama. So the big picture, as I see it at the moment, is that international law, as we learned for the past 50 years, is dead. Now, it's targeted assassination is considered justice. A humanitarian war that you sneak into the UN and then you use NATO as a weaponized arm to take sides in a civil war is also considered lawful. And you have a drone war in Pakistan that will keep going on apart from the targeted assassination of Obama with a lot of collateral damage, and this is also considered lawful. So, over. Forget about international law. It's over.
Okay, let's follow this through, though, something you just said, that you believe that the goal now is assassinating Gaddafi. And we did see his compound hit by a NATO strike, reportedly killing his youngest son and 3 grandchildren under the age of 12. If the NATO forces do, in fact, kill Gaddafi, if he is assassinated, does that create a better situation, an end to this violence, or does it make it worse?
It makes much worse. First of all, because the impetus of the great 2011 Arab revolt has already been stolen by the fact that a Western humanitarian war is now going on in Northern Africa. So if you look at the headlines for these past 3 or 4 weeks, what's happening in Egypt, like the way the political situation in Egypt and the different forces are fighting for power and trying to get to a real election, electing a real sovereign parliament and a presidency, disappear completely from the headlines. Same about Tunisia. We only talk about target assassinations, drone wars, and humanitarian interventions, and the way to circumvent international law via the UN again.
Pepe, I want to ask you, today we're hearing U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton say that she does endorse a Turkish roadmap for peace in Libya. Do you buy that then?
No, you're right, Lauren. They should have endorsed this plan a month ago, because this plan has been on the table, put on by Davutoglu, the Turkish foreign minister. And the African Union plan is very similar to the Turkish plan. Establish a humanitarian corridor, put everybody on the same table, and discuss a peaceful solution. And now, Hillary Clinton herself said that's the only feasible way to get out of this quagmire.
But then that kind of conflicts with what you're saying, that the United States really just wants regime change and wants Gaddafi assassinated. So which do you think they're really going for?
Yes, exactly. This is, let's call it the post-Osama PR debacle effect. They don't know what they want, so they change their minds every day.
And you
That's
think
the only feasible explanation.
So do you think that they are moving towards trying to push for a brokered peace agreement through a country like Turkey?
From the point of view of the U.S., after what happened with Osama, that would be an honorable solution. The problem is to contain Sarkozy and David Cameron in Europe, because this is their war in Europe. And the U.S. was posing as, okay, we are in the background, although they launched the war through Africa, and then they transferred to NATO, which is the Pentagon in Europe, essentially. But Sarkozy and Cameron, for them, politically, internally in Britain and France, this is their war, and they need to win it for electoral purposes. And obviously, they see this escaping from them, and that's why they're panicking. So now they have to be contained by the White House, the Pentagon, and the U.S. Secretary of State. It's a completely Kafkaesque situation, and it's even more Kafkaesque because now nobody in the West knows what's the meaning of international law anymore. I think this is the most important fact from all this mess.
Well, international law certainly comes into play. I just want to back up real quick, and last question just real briefly. You know, going back to the African Union did try to broker a ceasefire, and Gaddafi has come out and said that he's on board for a ceasefire. No one believes him. So in that situation, what is the likelihood that a ceasefire will ever be reached? And do you think Gaddafi is serious that he wants that?
He wants it, but the thing is, he was trying to conquer Misrata before actually implementing the ceasefire. The thing is, from the moment you implement a ceasefire, how the country is going to be divided. So Gaddafi needs all his major assets in place. If he doesn't have parts of Cyrenaica where not the most important oil installations are, it's okay with him. So that's what he's playing for. And that's why Misrata was so important during these past 4 weeks. So now I would say with almost certainty that Tripoli wants a ceasefire, because now it suits them.
It's interesting. We'll have to wait and see what happens and see if your predictions continue to pan out the way it did with the call for boots on the ground. That was Asia Times correspondent Pepe Escobar.